Welcome back to part 2 of socialization. A little technical difficulty. So, the socializing agents. What provides the most socialization? What are the big factors? Family is the first socialization agent. You're born into the family. Those are the people that you're around. You start to learn the expectations, the roles. You go back to Mead's preparatory stage. You are imitating those around you. You're learning the values and beliefs and of the family. You may be dressed in blue if you're a boy, girl if you're, or pink if you're a girl. Learning to play with trucks if you're a boy, which most of socialization in society kind of falls on, and dolls and tea sets as a girl. And so family starts to be the first socialization. Your peers are another agent of socialization. We look at peers we follow. So if you went to school and it was the first time you're in the cafeteria as a kindergartner, you have no idea how to follow the line or get your food, you might watch some of the older students. You're imitating them. We get a lot of socialization from peers. If you think back to culture and sanctions and norms and informal norms and formal norms, that socialization, we're taught the expectations of society, what's right, what's wrong, what's accepted, what's not. Media is another huge agent of socialization. If you just watch TV shows from 1970, 1980 to now, you can see how it has changed. Some things were acceptable back then, smoking in a lot of the TV shows and movies, and smoking is not now. But then you look at the characters, race, the gender, sexuality from 70s, 80s, 60s, from television shows to now. Another big part is, where did you learn to ask somebody out on a date? Most likely, maybe your parents sat down and said, this is how you ask somebody out on a date. Most likely you learned it through movies. You learned it through TV shows, and then watching peers. Media is a huge socialization, kind of sets the tone for what's acceptable, what's not in the culture at the moment. Education is also a socialization agent. This plays a big part. You spend many years, 12 years in school. You go at a very early age. And so they're teaching you math, 2 plus 2 is 4, how to read. But education plays a lot more in socialization. And this is called the hidden curriculum. In the hidden curriculum, education is teaching you how to follow rules, how to interact with others, how to take turns. It's also setting up how to be competitive. That's why they have blue ribbons and awards and science fair project and who won the blue ribbon. It's also some of the other hidden curriculum is patriotism and citizenship. It used to be that the Pledge of Allegiance was said every day before school starts. I have seen high schools that still continue to do that. So there's a lot more socialization in education. Another thing is how to sit still for 6 to 7 hours a day in a seat. What do you think that's preparing you for? It's preparing you for the work world. It's no coincidence that an average work day is 8 hours. It's also teaching you how to be on time. Well, in the work world, you need to be on time. If you're not on time for school, you miss out, or there are consequences. There's sanctions. It's socializing you. It's preparing you for the work world. So let's talk sociological perspective. Remember, sociological perspectives are, the main ones are functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionalism. So coming from a functionalist perspective or point of view, and looking at socialization, many people might say, oh, you shouldn't make blue all for boys. It can be for girls. Girls can play with trucks. Functionalism looks at there needs to be socialization, the different gender roles, the hidden curriculum, the learning how to sit still, patriotism. You need all of that to function and keep society functioning and stable. Different roles, all of that in Emile Durkheim is, remember, a functionalist. It plays a part, many different parts making one society go. Conflict theory is looking at it as inequalities. It would look at socialization as continuing the inequalities and keeping those that have power and those that don't have power down. So, for example, a conflict theorist would say that socialization just continues that keeping gender roles, women in one gender role, men in other roles in the home, in the workplace. Keeping the colors. If we say only blue is for boys and truck is for boys and dolls are for girls, we're limiting and separating and continuing the inequality. Symbolic interactionalism, remember that's a micro level. Symbolic interactionalism looks at the meanings. Believe it or not, blue used to actually be for girls and pink were for boys many, 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 many years ago. Symbolic interactionalism and the meanings to things do change over time. So symbolic interactionalism would look at what the meanings are, the language, how we're putting that together in socialization, the dating rituals, asking people out, how we interact with each other. Another important factor I wanted to bring out in this chapter, the chapter talked about, the book talked about Sigmund Freud and looking at his theories. Emile Durkheim was really able to separate and show that there was a difference between sociology and psychology. Psychology is the mind and decisions and how we act due to what's going on inside. With Emile Durkheim and looking at suicide, his book on suicide that was so big, he looked at the empirical data around him and what was going on. What was going on in society? What was going on in that town? What was going on in the people's lives? And not just looking at, could it be something wrong with the person? And so Emile Durkheim really took the opportunity at that time. He's the one who kind of separated that and made a difference between sociology and psychology. The last thing I wanted to talk about is resocialization and total institution. So through many stages of your life, you're going to continue to be socialized. Socialization just doesn't stop at middle school or high school. Every time you go into a new stage of life, you're looking at resocialization. Going to college is very different from high school. And if you can remember middle school, going to high school, you were resocialized there. Going into the work world, you're going to have to learn the rules of the workplace. It's very different than high school. Moving on, if you were living alone or you were married and it was later on, you were 70s, 80s, you've been very independent, and then all of a sudden you've been moved to an assisted living program or a nursing home. It's very different. You're going to have to re-socialize yourself of the expectations. So re-socialization happens all the time. We're socialized in many different stages. Total institutions examples are prison, military, prisons and military, but prisons have their own culture and a lot of resocialization there, but you're kind of giving up. You go through a degradation ceremony. You're giving up everything that you have learned and you're going into a total institution. They're going to tell you what to think, what to eat, what to do, and how to interact with others. Military, very similar. You go through boot camp. That's what boot camp is for. That's resocialization and total institution. So that's the end of the overview of social interactions and socializations, and I hope you have a wonderful day.